going on, guys? Brandon Taylor here from Delphic Argonauts, here to give you another gear rundown, and this time we're going through the Fractal Axe FX, which is my main unit when it comes to recording, studio stuff, playing live and stuff like that. I would like to get real amps when it comes to recording in the studio, but for right now, the Fractal Axe FX is my main unit when it comes to everything that I do. I'm going to go through and show you how I use it in the studio, how I use it live, and all the different ways you can actually edit and make your own personal tone, and how actually easy it is to make a really decent sound right out of the gate. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So this here is my main unit, Fractal Axe FX II, going into a QSC power amp, which allows me to actually use this in conjunction with my cab, which is comes from the Marshall MG series, which though is not the best cabinet for high gain. It works for me for what I'm doing right now, but my main unit is definitely the Fractal Axe FX. Just everything that you can do with this piece of gear, it's just phenomenal. I mean, it's the closest thing I've heard so far to when it comes a modeling amp sounding like the real thing. Though I will still say that you can never replace the actual genuine article, but this is a good alternative if you're in a situation like me when you're recording at home, because I can't really show the back right now, but what it is that I have a XLR cable going from the back going straight into my interface, so that way I can record directly into it and have the tone, coming straight from the box, going straight into my DAW, so that way I could get the cleanest sound I can get without having to mic up everything and actually cause a ruckus, because I do live in an apartment complex, as I've probably stated before. But live though, is what I'll have this be, is that this will act as the preamp, because it is pretty much a preamp system, as it says right here, preamp / effects processor. So then that will in turn go into the QSC, which will then in turn have its signal go into, the QSC will power this, and then we'll go straight into the cab, so that way I still have air movement live on stage, because just the pure direct in, it's not my cup of tea. I like to have that airflow, and for me, I'm usually the person who's in the front of the stage, so being able to have that front stage sound like coming directly at you in your face, I really appreciate that stuff. So to be able to have this as an option, it's definitely really good for me. So what I'll do now is we'll head back to the computer, and I will show you how the UI actually operates, because if you we'll actually turn it on here real quick. So you can change your tones and all that straight from here without having to connect to anything else, but the layout and trying to operate with it is a little cumbersome, and it is an extreme learning curve. So you have all the buttons and stuff, so it all operates this way, and it took me a good month and a half to try to figure out working off of this. Let's just try to get some practice on it. So it's definitely good to just do it from the computer if you're at home or in a studio, so that way it's just easier and more quick to get through all that stuff. But yeah, let's head over to the computer, and I'll show you how the UI off the computer looks.
Alright guys, so we moved over to my computer, where I actually have the Axe Edit, as they call it, is their app for the Fractal Axe FX, where you actually, how the process works is you actually connect your Axe FX to your computer via USB, which they supply with the exact type of USB cord that you need. And then what it is that you'll download this particular app, and then this is where you'll actually be able to mess around with your settings of whatever preset that you want to set. And this is what it'll look like this. For example, this here is a complete setup. This is the main sound that I've actually been using for all of my projects that I've worked on. You know, the New Dawn's Rising EP, the next two releases, and a couple of the demos I did for another project. But just this is here how it sounds. So yeah, that's how that sounds. And pretty much my main Delphic Argonaut sound is based off the third channel of the Diesel Herbert, which, it was pretty much one of my favorite amps and stuff like that. And that's what makes this piece of gear really cool. So you have all these different amp heads and cabs that you can pretty much choose from. So the amount of sound that you can get out of this is pretty much nearly endless. Then, of course, you got your cabs, which they have plenty of different impulse responses that they've made. Then you can actually make your own through similar process what you use with the Kemper, where you mic it up and then it gets your chain and stuff like that. So, but for this sound, I actually have a stereo setup where I actually have it based off two different cabs. One on the left is actually based off a rectifier. And with that, you can actually choose the different, microphones and stuff like that, which each one will give you a different tone. Because like with the Recto, I have the 58 on it, which is a dynamic. So you'll go from that tone. Say if you want to put a 57 in front of it, it gets you this tone. Which, for whatever reason, if you switch anything from the top, it'll do that exact thing on the bottom. So you'll that's the one thing I find annoying with this, but it's easy to switch around. But so how much the sound changes is like this. And the guys at Fractal Audio have done a killer job figuring out how to best get the mic sounds and stuff like that and get in the uniqueness of them. And so the other thing that's really cool about Fractal, the Axe FX compared to all of the other stuff like Kemper, Line 6 Helix and stuff like that, is just that to me, this particular model has, like the Axe FX has the best sounds when it comes to all the the effects and stuff, like with your delay. You got your delays, you got your reverbs. And they have a bunch of different effect types, like how I have this one. I have it set up as a digital mono, as I'm only going in the Axe FX to my interface, which is 1 XLR. But say if you were going through with 2, because you could do that, then that's where you can get that stereo effect. Excuse me. Then you got like different reverbs and stuff like that. But if I were to like right click, oh no, is it right click? Yeah. You have all these other features that you can do. I mean, you can do a wah, which you can actually have it set to, let's see, let's bring up the wah. So you come down here. I'm trying to remember how you get to it, but there's a particular way where you can have it set to an expression pedal, so that way you can control it via the expression pedal, so that way it's not just an auto engage. Because if I do it like this, it's so right now it thinks it's completely off. So, but say if you want change a block, as they call it, it's so easy to do. All you have to do is do that, and yeah, and then say if you want to save this or whatever, you can do that. But let's just for shits and giggles, let's go over to a clean, like not used particular spot and just show you how, say if you want to set up your own tone, how you go about doing that. So what you'll want to first do is start to have your signal, to have it all the way from your input and output, so that way you can actually get the actual tone. Now that's just a direct in sound that you get from that. Now let's just start out with an amp. And just to get all that extra noise out, let's get the cab in there already. and I always do this first. I start with the amp and the cab, and then I immediately put a gate in there just to get that noise out of there. And the amp that it will start out with when you start a new one will be the one that was on the most recent pre-save that you had. So it's very easy to, like, if you just want to replicate it like manually like this, you could do that, or you could just do copy and paste, but it's up to you how you want to go about doing that. But let's just choose a different head. Let's go with one of the VH4 sounds. So let's try the Blue 4. So there's a particular cab I always like to use. Let's just do a similar setup how I had it before. So we'll do a stereo, which, as you can see, you can go from regular or a stereo. I always keep it stereo just because I like the mixture of the sounds. So we'll have this as the M160 because that's the way I like it. And we will go to the 5153 mix 1, and then I'll put the 58 there, put the 421 there, and then we'll see how this sounds already. It's already starting to sound pretty good. So I mean, this is how simple it is, like compared to like if you were to try to do it all from the actual machine, just how hard it would be. I mean, because I could spend like an hour just trying to show you, but that would just be a headache. So, but right now we're already getting a decent tone, so what you can do is come in here and just mess around to your liking. I usually like to keep my bass, my low end for the guitar, about 10 or 11 o'clock. Yeah, keep it 10. Mids, about between 1 and 2, and then treble. I used to have a really high treble, like around here, but I've recently, as I've gotten used to messing around with tone, I've kind of kept it around the same area where the mid is. So it's even starting to get better already. Then you could add to where it immediately has like a boost added to it. Then you could add a bright switch just to make it a little bit brighter, without actually having to mess with the bright knob yet. Then you can actually go in and mess with like the graph equalizer and stuff like that. That's, see if you want to change the bandwidth and stuff like that. Preamp tubes, the power amp, and the dynamics and stuff like that. I usually don't go too deep into here. The only thing that I'll usually do is like, I usually will bring this down to a 5-band, like similar to how, I'll do like this particular one, unless I'm messing with the Mark V, which they do have like the 2C Plus on here, which is really cool. Be coming here, I can just mess with this a little bit. I dropped my pick. Now for like this right here is the only other thing I'll really touch. I mean, because like for example, there's like, for whatever reason with the Fractal Axe FX, if I have the channel 3 of the Herbert, I'd actually have, to get that weird buzzing sound, because it has a weird buzzing sound now, like on the high mids. No matter what I do to equalize it out, it doesn't want to go. But as soon as I switch to the ideal sound for the compression type, it sounds a lot better. But let's just see how this sounds with this. I usually, so most of the time I'll just keep that as ideal instead of authentic, because to me it just has a better tone. It's a little bit more wider or brighter, in my opinion. So let's just see if we can get this any better. We could add a drive to it if we want. Bring the tone down and make it like just like a clean boost or whatever. So just get that extra. That's why. Let's switch that to the 808 overdrive. I mean, really, the only really good overdrive, in my opinion, that you could really mess with on here that's actually gonna have a decent tone is gonna be is basically based off the Maxon 808. Actually, no, I never tried the Fractals boost. It's actually not that bad. So we are actually getting a little bit more noise, so we can bring the ratio up a little bit. So, and then you go in, and it's like all about where you put the pedals as well. As in the blocks, it's going to have a particular tone, because I made the mistake of having the equalizer in front. And I had started messing with stuff before, where so yeah, placing everything on the right spot is going to be an importance too, because say if I were to put the delay and the reverb, like all your time effect stuff in front of like being the first thing it hits, then that is just going to be amplified by everything else from the amp, the cab, and stuff like that. So it's important to put stuff in the right spot for your signal path. So, and you can also have it to where the your delays and your reverbs are outside of the main line, so that way it's not actually hitting directly your sound, so it's more kind of like a background noise, almost kind of like how an effects loop works. But it's weird to explain, but because this actually does have an effects loop that you can actually set up. Let's see if I were to come down here and then find where's the effects loop. Yeah, and then whatever you put go back. But yeah, so you go in here. Where are you? Yeah. So whatever you put in the effects loop is actually come in and actually affect the sound. This way, if you were to connect it back in. But usually what you want to do, usually I use this to get the cab set up, so that way I have, because what I'll do live is I'll have the direct in sound go into the front of house, and then have my effects loop be connected to my my cab with the power amp, and then that way I'm getting the best of both worlds. So yeah, and what's really cool, there are websites you can actually visit, which, hang on, I'll bring up that website now. So this website here, called Axe Change, will actually have where people can upload like different presets that they have, which you can actually download and actually install directly into your Fractal Axe FX by using another piece of software that you can get from Fractal's website to it's called AxeBot, like FractalBot, yeah, FractalBot. And then what it is that you find the actual one, like, see, notice here it says Fractal product Axe FX II. So you get the one that matches whichever one you have, because you had the Axe FX III, which it's pretty much the most updated version of their Axe FX system, but it takes a lot more space up in the rack. So that and the price tag is kind of what's kept me from buying that. But so yeah, you can pretty much go in here. If we actually just go to the front page, you have all these different sounds that you can and presets you can download, and you get actually a whole bunch from like Periphery, so Nolly, Mark, Misha, all those guys have uploaded to this frequently, which is really cool. So if you actually want to have their tone in your thing, it's really cool. Notice it says Puppets, Magnetic Reload, stuff like that. When I actually got this from the guy off of Reverb, he actually already had a bunch of Metallica tones already pre-installed in there, which I think is really cool. So this is gonna sound weird in a open C tuning, but uh, so yeah, what you could do with the Fractal Axe FX is just crazy insane and just freaking awesome. So, I mean, you can pretty much do what you want to try to create tones from artists. You can make your own tone. Pretty much any type of amp that you would want, you pretty much have already installed in here. You can also make your own impulse responses. They actually have packs that you can actually buy on Fractal's website, which actually have more cab choices. I have yet to buy it, and honestly don't really see myself buying it just because I like the way the rectifier and the 5153 already sound on here. So this has been a run through of me going through the Fractal Axe FX, which is, like I stated before, my main go-to for creating new sounds and making, using it for studio recording and live format. Actually, as I was going through here, I'm thinking maybe, making other videos to like designing different guitar tones, trying to capture other artist tones as close as possible. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, let me know down below in the comment section. Would really appreciate that. I'd like to have that interaction with you guys. So so if you're interested in me doing like tone videos, add that to the mix, plus the the podcasts that I have on Sundays, which sorry about missing this past one. Unfortunately, technical difficulties on that, which is mostly my fault, but we'll rectify that for next time. Have another video coming up where I actually go through with a buddy of mine, and we actually show our like hit up the spots where I used to play music before COVID all hit and all that stuff. So appreciate your time, guys. Appreciate your support for not just this channel here, but for the music for Delta Gargonauts. Don't forget, this Friday we actually have the first EP being released, and we're gonna have a like a kind of like a listening party, like a EP release party later in that night. So look forward to that. Yeah. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon. See ya.